Looks like you covered it in French ticklers. Hey everybody, welcome back to Dyson Sphere Program. I'm Joe Mama, your host, and we're exploring the black hole a little bit here. And we're going to stay away from the gravity well as much as we can. But if you've been watching my series up to this point, this is totally new. I hadn't even gotten space flight yet, and here we are. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you at least how I subdued my the black hole in my system, and what I did to kind of exploit it, and hopefully you'll have a chance to do the same thing. I am about 15 light years away from where I started, just so you know, and I'm trying to make corrections here so I can hit the planet. It is about 1 astronomical unit away. And an astronomical unit is a measure of the distance, I guess, of our home planet to the sun. So in this case, we're on a totally different system, and the black hole is our sun. Dare I say, a black hole sun. So yeah, there's that. Okay, hit the planet, bam! Oh, we bounced off the planet. Well, that's not cool. That's not cool at all. Okay, let's go back. Course correction. And right now you're looking at my planet like, what the heck did you do to the planet? Looks like you covered it in French ticklers. That's kind of true. So let's go take a look at the planetary view here. This is the planet. This is typical of the planet you would find around a black hole. And as you can see, yes, the black hole is the sun. What you're seeing are not French ticklers. They are a bunch of wind turbines that I've just dropped all over the planet, and I can thank JD Plays for this little strategy. It makes sense. Even this late in the game, it makes sense. But of course, when you travel to other worlds, you're looking for rare resources, really. You want to advance your game, you're looking for these rare resources that are going to help you do that. What I'm told, this isn't 100%. A very common, I know it sounds like an oxymoron, but a very common rare material that you will find on a planet surrounding a black hole is unipolar magnets. And what we've got here are unipolar magnets. And look at those things. So yeah, and the great thing about unipolar magnets, now look at the size of the vein where we're at. Actually, let's go ahead to this view. Look at the size of the vein. It is right now sitting at about 300,000, a little bit more than 300,000. Still not great. But what I've decided to do is use this planet basically as a place to set up production for warp cores, or warpers as they're called in the game. So here's the deal. Let's take a look at our replicator recipes here. Now here's the warp core. We're going to work this backwards. This is what a warp core looks like. Now, in order to make a warp core, there's 2 different recipes. We could either use green science, which we don't have yet, or we could say, actually, the green science is kind of cool. With 1 green science cube, you can make 8 warpers. But instead, we have these graviton lenses. Honestly, it looks like a green jelly bean, but graviton lenses. With 1 of these, you can simply do a quick 1-for-1 transformation to a warper. Okay. So now you have to make these graviton lenses. So what we can do as far as the lenses go, their recipe is the diamonds. What are they called? Yeah, just straight up diamonds. Diamonds and strange matter. Diamonds, well, there's a little bit of coal. If we take a look at our resources here, we have a very moderate amount of coal. Where is it? Yeah, it's sitting at less than 100,000. So really, that's something we got to do something about, because very shortly we will be out. So in order to keep making warp cores here, we need more coal, and we will fix that. But let's continue down, going backwards through this. So we need diamonds and we need strange matter. So the strange matter, now that we know how to get diamonds, let's look at strange matter. Strange matter is made with deuterium and some iron, which is kind of funny. I mean, just this major high-end ingredients made of iron, and particle containers. Now here's where the unipolar magnets come in. We have 2 different recipes for particle containers. They are normally a pain in the neck to make. We do not have a ton of copper on this planet, and in order to make these, we would need the alternate recipe, we would need copper. Even more so, we would need these electromagnetic turbines, which are, we don't make them very fast. They take time to make. So this alternate recipe here is just add some copper and unipolar magnets. So here we've got our unipolar magnets being mined, and we've got them going to our replicators, and I'll show you that. So, but if you notice, I've got a whole bunch of other jazz going on. Titanium is very heavy on this planet, so I've set that up as an export item. Also, fire ice. One thing you will find on the planet surrounding a black hole is fire ice, and fire ice is, I won't say a rare resource, but it's hard to come by in your home system. And this stuff right here has its own great properties, so let's take a look. Fire ice can be used to make graphene, and graphene is something we need to make carbon nanotubes, and those are right here. Carbon nanotubes, kind of a pain in the neck to make when we only have oil as a source. But here we've got fire ice in great quantities, so we can make lots of graphene, and we've got titanium in great quantities. Again, let's take a look. Look at our resources. We're up to 30 million titanium, 40 million fire ice. We've got way more fire ice than we will ever need, so we can also use it as an export item. So there's that. So what I've done is I've taken the fire ice and brought it to these chemical plants, and in these chemical plants they're directly converting the fire ice into graphene, and a byproduct of that is hydrogen. And the hydrogen we're going to use to make the deuterium that we're going to need for the warp cores. And then the graphene is being sent over to these chemical plants here, which are creating the carbon nanotubes. And I've got titanium as well coming in here. Where is it? Right here. So I've got titanium. And also, see, this planet was 15 light years away. I don't want to keep coming back here to check it. So I've been spending a lot of time here making sure everything is just so. And one of the things I've done is to make sure that that this fire ice vein is backed up by other fire ice veins around it. So there's fire ice coming in from other veins around the planet to this point. If we take a look at the planetary view, you can kind of track the belts to all these different things, and those are all fire ice sources that are being funneled to this area and that are being funneled to the planetary logistics system here. So I could probably get away with taking some of the titanium and one of the other titanium veins and focusing it here as well, but I'm not going to worry about that. So now we've got our source of carbon nanotubes, but I'll show you what else is happening here. Now the trick with producing graphene in these chemical plants is producing it is a two-product process, which means it takes the one thing, which is the fire ice, and it produces two products. As you know from refining oil, if any one product doesn't get used, if any one product starts to back up, then it backs up into the plant and it stops the process for all the other products that it produces. So the key here is to make sure that both the hydrogen and the graphene do not back up, okay? That these are allowed to keep going, because at any point we need both products. The graphene is sent here to the carbon nanotubes, to the chemical plant for the carbon nanotubes. When the carbon nanotubes are being made, they're going into these containers, and these containers are going to fill up, but they're also being sent up to the interstellar logistics system. Now eventually it's going to fill, which it already has. See, it's already full of carbon nanotubes. So then it started to back up. And if it backs up and stops these plants from working, that would stop the graphene from being consumed. And if the graphene stops being consumed, then it stops these plants up and stops the production of hydrogen, which stops the production of deuterium. And we need deuterium to make our warp cores. So what I've done is I've set this up so that should these containers fill up, then I've set this splitter up right here. If this jams up, then it will send it out this outlet. Now at this outlet, so that means if these things jam up, they're going to start coming out this outlet here. And so what I've done is I've set up these 2 generators right here. They're just, all they are is thermal power stations, and they burn through carbon nanotubes like nobody's business. So I've set these up so that if any extra comes through here, these generators will burn them up. Okay, carbon nanotubes are great, but if production stops, then I lose the production. I lose production of deuterium, and I cannot have that. So that would be bad. Also, I've got one set up here. I've got a 3rd generator set up here so that the graphene that comes in here, if these jam up for whatever reason, then the graphene would continue and then be burned up by this generator, and they are burned up quick. So this way we're keeping graphene from graphene or carbon nanotubes from stopping our production. This graphene supply right here goes past all 16 chemical plants. So that way, if these chemical plants stop needing them, then the graphene will be eaten up. Doesn't matter. So the graphene's going to keep coming out of these plants. That's good. So now we have to worry about the hydrogen. Okay, so I'm not going to explain each individual belt, but I'll simply tell you that I've run the hydrogen down through here and past some of these generators. These generators are set up so that they will just consume to keep the flow moving, so that if anything backs up farther down the line, these things will keep eating it up. Another thing too, we need power, okay? And if plants stop operating, then they stop needing power. And if they stop needing power, they don't consume much power. And that actually starts sort of a reverse death spiral where we have excess power and generators that aren't consuming fuel fast enough. Because as you'll learn later in this game, hydrogen is a fuel that you do not want to, hydrogen is a resource that you will find yourself drowning in later, and we don't want that. Okay, so over here I've got even more chemical plants working on graphene, as you can see. More fire ices over here, so I've decided to produce more graphene in a different spot. Now also, you'll notice that I've got graphene taken from these plants, and if you follow these belts, they go back to our other graphene chemical plants using this tier 2 belt. And I've got these splitters here set up so that any overflow gets sent to these generators, which burn up the graphene. Again, all in the hopes of keeping the hydrogen flowing. You'll also see too that I've got pay no attention to the titanium here. That was an experiment that I was doing, trying to use hydrogen fuel rods instead of hydrogen, but that was an unnecessary step. But anyway, so I've just sent straight hydrogen to these generators to help burn it and keep the hydrogen moving. And that hydrogen needs to keep moving so that these chemical plants can keep producing. And also, notice, look at all the deuterium crackers here that I've got, the fractionators they're called. But the point here, these are all converting, hydrogen is going through them, and they're converting 1 out of every 100 to deuterium. And you can see the deuterium flowing through here. But all of these, I'll see, like right here. No, that's still flowing. That's still flowing. Good. Because what we don't want is the oxygen or the hydrogen. I keep saying oxygen for some reason. We do not want the hydrogen to stagnate, because as soon as it stops on the belt, then these things will stop doing the process. It's not like simply supplying it is going to this machine. Not like simply supplying hydrogen is going to keep the process going. There has to be a clear outlet, both for the deuterium and for the hydrogen that leaves it, because it comes in one side, the hydrogen comes in one side of these fractionators, and then 99 come out the other side. 100 come in one side, and 99 come out the other side. So there has to be room for it to go. And sometimes it jams up, and if it jams up, if the hydrogen stops moving, these stop doing their job. So the power plants are there to take the overflow hydrogen and burn it up and keep it moving. So I've got deuterium going like crazy. And all of the deuterium comes to this belt right here, and we're going to follow this belt to the end of the process here. And yes, I just started dumping wind turbines all over the place. Again, when I first got to the planet, you need to have some sort of backup power. Okay, so here's a deuterium. I've set up a couple tanks to collect it, but I've set up 4 particle colliders here. They're to produce the strange matter rods. So, and here's the ingredients coming in: the iron and the what do you call them? Particle containers? Is that what they're called? The pink things? Particle containers? This is doing our work here for the strange matter. Strange matter is collecting here, and I've got the graviton lenses being produced, and they're going straight to the warpers, and the warpers are going straight to the interstellar logistics stations. So that's how that's working, and that's how I've got that set up. And here's our particle containers, taking the unipolar magnets and turning them into the containers, and we're actually going through these containers pretty quick. Eventually this is going to empty, and it's actually going to be a bottleneck. So if we can find more unipolar magnets somewhere else in the galaxy, we need to do that. But all the rest of this is stuff that if you plan properly, you're not going to need to do. I didn't bring a lot of the things that I should have brought, and I brought some things that I just plain didn't need. So here's the one copper vein on the planet. So here's what I've done. You see this empty belt right here that goes to the copper? That empty belt comes from our planetary logistics system, and it's the one item that I've requested from outside this system is more copper, at least on this machine right here. So that way, when we get back to our home planet, we can set up a copper supply station and bring copper to this planet. And there's a couple other things we're going to need to do as well, though. So we'll set up a backup source for the copper. Let's see, is there anything else in here that might be useful? No, not really. That's extra stuff that I had in my inventory that I didn't need. And I've got some titanium or silicon being produced as well. So there's that. And here's our copper vein. And you can see we were at 98,000, now we're at 97. So the timer is running out for us to get some coal up in here. So we need to do that. So this is what I've done. I've set up a nice conversion area here to make diamonds, but I've also set up another planetary logistics system that has a request for coal. So as soon as we get back and we supply coal to the planetary logistics system, then or the interplanetary logistics system, this will have a source of coal and hopefully of copper as well for the other one. Now notice the warpers. I've got a belt coming in here that is delivering, where is it? Right there. That belt is bringing in a supply of warpers from our production, and you can see it started to collect some. We've got about 3,000 of 10,000 total that we can carry, which is going to be tight because we require 10 unipolar magnets for each warper. So we've got 300,000 unipolar magnets left. That suggests that we can have a total of 30,000 warpers. So we'll see. Why do I have 2 inputs there? Why was that? I don't know why. Anyway, so our warper production is coming in here and it's split. Okay, we've got one set of warpers being supplied to this logistics station, and we've got one supply to that one. This will be our main source of warp cores. So that's what I'm using this for. Okay, so if you decide to go for the black hole, if you decide to head for the black hole and you're wondering what resources would be best to bring, how would you best prepare for it, I'm going to offer a couple of suggestions. First of all, make sure you've researched Mecha Core 4 if you can. Oh, obviously, before you can leave, you have to research Drive Engine 4. Drive Engine 4, that's going to allow you to go into hyperspace. Also, Logistics Carrier Engine 4. This unlocks the Logistics Vessel Warp. This Logistics Carrier Engine 4 unlocks the ability of your logistics vessels to go into warp speed. That is super important before you come here. So make sure that is done. And pack with you, put in your inventory some items you're going to need that are hard to make in remote areas. For example, this interstellar logistics port. Bring at least one. I would bring a couple. Have it available. It would be great, before you even go, set up on one of your logistics ports, one of your interstellar logistics ports, wherever they are, whatever planet, supply one with copper. Supply one with copper ingots, okay? And before you go, if you've already researched logistics warp, logistics engine level 4 or whatever, make sure you create space warpers and you stick a couple in that interstellar logistics station. And the reason you're going to do this is so that when you get to the black hole planet, when you get to the planet and you drop your logistics system and you power it up, then immediately you can start receiving copper. And that way you're not wasting, and coal as well, yes. Set up a supply of both coal and copper. Do that, coal and copper, so that as soon as you get here, you drop another planetary logistics station and you can request copper and you can request coal, so you don't use any of these precious materials to make stuff that you could have easily made on another planet. You know, you've only got a few 100,000 copper reserves and a few 100,000 coal. So if you can get here and immediately have basically an infinite access to it, do it. Set it up right away. So that way you can start making things with copper and coal, and you can start production on your warp core without using the very limited resources that are here. You get that set up. Also, before you leave, make sure you've got your particle colliders, a bunch of assembly machines. I'm not sure that I would go with the tier 2. The tier 1 uses less power, but if you set up enough wind turbines, power won't really be an issue. Once you get here, and you've got an infinite supply of copper, and probably wouldn't hurt to set one up of iron, even though, as this planet sits right now, we've got 8 million iron here, so it's not really an issue. But I don't know, maybe the RNG gods for some other games will limit iron instead of copper. I don't know, so maybe it'd be best to set up a infinite supply of both of them. You know, that's a thought. So, copper, iron, and coal. Basic stuff that you can get on your home planet. If you set those up and set a logistics system up here to receive those, then you're probably not going to have an issue. Once you have those two items, copper and iron, then you can start to set up, as I did. I set up production of, I just used a single assembly machine, but I set up production of wind turbines, and it just filled a container up with a bunch of wind turbines. I kept it going, and then I just started dropping them around the planet, and I picked up my nuke plants, so I don't need to use those anymore. And the only other power sources are the power plants that are basically being used to consume hydrogen and the nanotubes and the graphene. And they're not there for power, they're just there to eat up those resources, so the hydrogen continues to flow. So anyway, once you get those things in your inventory, oh, you know what? Yeah, logistics vessels and plenty of warp cores. When you travel, I would take a stack of warp cores with you to get here, because if you've never warped before, it's going to be a pain in the neck to try to figure it out. It takes a bit to get used to. Also, these logistics vessels, if you can make a bunch to put in your inventory, do it. I mean, they use some pretty high-end resources, which you don't really want to make here. And, for one thing, the titanium, the reinforced titanium, what's it called? Titanium alloy, you cannot make that here. You have to bring that with you. So make sure you either have a good source of that, or you set up a source somewhere else, or build your logistics vessels. That's about the only place I really needed them. Actually, let me see. The planetary logistics system, I think they also use titanium alloy. Yes, they do. Yep. So you would need some of that as well. But and these fractionators, I would make a crap ton of fractionators. I must have 50, 60, 70 on this planet, and I think they stack to 20. So bring like 4 stacks of fractionators if you're going to do what I did. So definitely bring those. So there you go. The particle colliders, some assembly machines, a couple of planetary logistics systems, planetary vessels, warp cores, deuterium rods if you have them. Those are some important things to put in your inventory. Titanium alloy. Yes, bring the titanium alloy as well. And yeah, see, here's a whole stack of hydrogen fuel rods that I made that I'm just not using, and it kind of makes no sense. So that was a poor choice on my part to make those, really, but whatever. I'm okay with it. I will survive. But anyway, that is this one humble gamer's suggestions for playing near a black hole planet. If you decide to go for it, it's a lot can be gained, and the scenery is just freaking awesome, don't you think? Go to town on this game. This is just a fantastic game, and hopefully you've had a chance to play it yourself. I mean, it's only 20 freaking bucks, so try it out. Really cool. Lots of great things to experience. So anyway, if you like what you see, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one. Ciao.